Unit 1, Chapter 1, Early Trade Activities. Trade in Ancient and Medieval Ages. Trade is considered to be as ancient as mankind. People had always traded to exchange what they had in abundance for what they could not produce. The trading activities were always a part of human civilizations since the ancient period. Trading relations had existed since the days of the ancient Greek and the Roman civilizations. Evidence of trading activities between the East and the West has been proved by the Roman coins which have been found in the excavations in the different countries, including India. Even as early as the Indus Valley civilization in India, information of trade between India and Mesopotamia has been recorded. In the medieval ages, Mediterranean and the Baltic seas were used as commercial highways, and so countries like Genoa and Venice were the important commercial cities. It was here that the merchants from Europe and Asia met to exchange their goods. The Silk Route was also one of the major routes used by the Arab merchants to carry out their trading activities with the Far Eastern countries like China. The trade routes of the ancient and medieval ages were land routes which passed through the various countries. Till the 15th century, these routes were used by the traders who earned huge profits by selling the goods from one country to another. The European demand for the goods from the East continued to increase, and this made the commercial class the richest class in the society. But these trading activities received a setback due to the developments in the international politics during the 14th and the 15th centuries, which necessitated the need to discover a new trade route which would be safer, more convenient, and not under the control of any country. This led to the age of geographical discoveries, which was the period from the 15th to the 17th century when the Europeans had explored the continents of Asia and Africa and discovered America. Causes of geographical discoveries. Limitations of the land routes. The land routes had its own limitations. Traveling by the land routes was time consuming. It took months together to travel from one place to another. They were full of risks because the traders always faced the dangers of being attacked by robbers. There were no proper lodging facilities for the traders during the night time. The time taken for traveling made it impossible for the traders to carry the trade in perishable goods. Since the land routes passed through the countries, there was a danger of them being closed down by the rulers. Because of the limitations of the land routes, a need was felt of a new type of commercial route which would be more beneficial to the traders. Knowledge of wealth of the eastern countries. Europeans had the information of the wealth and the riches of the eastern countries either through the records of the earlier traders or by witnessing the profits earned by the traders through their trading activities of goods sold at higher prices. Marco Polo's visit in the 13th century to the kingdom of Kublai Khan in China and the precious stones that he brought from there created a desire in the minds of the traders to amass wealth, and for this they were ready to undertake any amount of risks. Goods like Chinese silk, Indian cotton, and precious stones, perfumes, and other items like gums, dyes, fragrant wood, etc. were always in demand in the European markets. The ever-increasing and insatiable demand for these goods among the rich sections of the European society encouraged the European merchants to find new sea routes to the east so that they could bring these luxury items and make enormous profits. Growth of geographical knowledge. Growth of geographical knowledge also inspired the explorers to undertake geographical explorations and discoveries. A number of books were published in the 15th century which provided useful information about the trade routes between the Far East and the West and improved the geographical knowledge of the Europeans. Some of the books which was helpful to the people were Geography, written by Ptolemy, and A Merchant's Handbook by Florentine. These books provided valuable information and were a guide to them when they undertook the voyages. Patronage from European monarchs. The traders during this period had secured the patronage from the European rulers to undertake voyages to the unknown lands because they considered it as an opportunity to make investments which would earn them high returns in terms of money and land. By supporting the explorers, they could expand their empires by bringing the new areas under their political supremacy. Beside this, they knew that they would be able to earn more wealth through the trading activities in the East. Thus, they provided all kinds of financial and non-financial support to the explorers and the traders. Desire to spread Christianity. The discovery of the new lands was looked upon by the Christian missionaries as an opportunity to spread their religion. These missionaries were often supported by the European traders and merchants who were also keen to exploit the unexplored lands. Availability of navigational aids. The explorers had an access to a number of navigational aids like the Mariners' Compass, Astrolabe, geographical maps, knowledge about shipbuilding, etc. Of all these, it was the use of Mariners' Compass which was the most useful to them. Though it was an ancient Chinese invention, it was put to proper use only in the 15th century. It provided the navigator an idea about the direction in which they were sailing, and this helped them to navigate properly in the deep oceans. Capture of the city of Constantinople. Europe had enjoyed a flourishing trade and commerce with Asia through Constantinople, the capital of the Eastern Roman Empire, for many years. In 1453, Constantinople fell into the hands of the Ottoman Turks, and Europe's trade with the East disrupted because the Turkish rulers did not allow the Europeans to carry out their trade through this route. But since there was a constant demand for the Eastern goods, they could not stop their trading activities, and so they were compelled to find out new routes so that their trade could continue. Thus, all these various factors initiated the process of discovering the new world by the explorers and the navigators. Major discoveries. Portugal and Spain had taken the lead in discovering the New World during the 15th century. England, France, and other European countries had entered later when they witnessed the profitability of the geographical discoveries. Portugal. Portugal was the first European country to utilize the opportunity which lay before it in the form of geographical discoveries. Their three main aims were God, glory, and gold. The Portuguese traders and navigators were blessed to have Prince Henry as their ruler during the 15th century. He had set up a school for the navigators, collected the services of the map makers and the ship designers, and did everything to help the expeditions. For this, he had earned the title of Henry the Navigator. The first exploration which was undertaken was of the west coast of Africa when many groups of islands were discovered. After his death, explorations continued because each expedition had brought in huge amounts of gold and profits and were also made on the slave trade. In 1488, Bartholomew Dias reached the southern tip of Africa, which he called as the Cape of Storms, since he was caught in the storms over there. It was later named as the Cape of Good Hope, since it provided hope to the navigators to travel further. The voyages continued under Bartholomew Dias, who sailed around the Cape of Good Hope, and in 1498 Vasco da Gama used the same route and reached the western coast of India and landed at Calicut on 17th May 1498. He then secured trading concessions from the ruler of Calicut. He returned back with spices and precious stones which repaid 60 times the cost of the expedition. This marked the beginning of European trade with India. Vasco da Gama returned with cargo full of spices and precious stones. Spain. Spanish explorations began during the rule of King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella. In 1492, Christopher Columbus was provided with 3 ships by them for exploration. On 12th October 1492, he landed at Bahamas, a place which he mistook for India. Columbus is also credited with the discovery of America. America was named so after Amerigo Vespucci had explored the interior regions of the continent. Another explorer, Fernando Magellan, had proved that the earth is round by circumnavigating it. In 1520, Ferdinand went round South America across the Pacific, visited the Philippine Island, and reached Spain via the Cape of Good Hope. The success of the Portuguese and the Spanish navigators and the immense wealth brought by them led the other European countries to undertake further explorations and set up their trading stations in Europe and Asia. England started undertaking voyages towards the end of 15th century when, under the rule of Henry VII, John Cabot had landed on Cape Breton Island. He also established the English claim to the eastern coast of North America. France started its process of exploration in the 16th century under the rule of King Francis I. When they tried to set up their colony in Northern America, they came into conflict with England, and this was the beginning of the conflicts between the European countries for the possession of the colonies. Effects of geographical discoveries. The discovery of Atlantic Sea as a result of the geographical explorations provided a new sea route to the east, and soon it became the chief highway of commerce. With this, the Baltic Sea and the Mediterranean Sea, which were the major commercial highways, lost their importance. This in turn led to the rise of a number of new commercial centers like London, Lisbon, and Amsterdam. The geographical explorations led to the emergence of absolute monarchies in Europe. The middle class, which had become important due to the expansion of commerce, needed the support of the rulers for their protection, and so they provided finance to the rulers to fight against the feudal nobles. This helped the monarchs in most part of Europe to establish their political supremacy. The geographical discoveries had established the superiority of the West over the East. The Western powers considered themselves to be superior to the natives of Asia and Africa, and they took upon themselves the responsibility of civilizing the uncivilized population of the world, which they termed as the white man's burden. In this process, a number of native cultures were abolished and replaced with the Western culture. The geographical discoveries gave rise to colonialism and imperialism. After the discovery of new territories, a large number of Europeans immigrated to these territories and established their respective colonies. They established their political control over them and began ruling over them. Thus, colonies were established by the Portuguese, the Dutch, the French, and the English in different parts of Asia, Africa, and America. These imperialistic countries began exploiting the natives. Often the colonial powers imposed restrictions on these colonies not to trade with other foreign countries and tried to exploit their economies to promote the interest of the mother country. Often these colonies were asked not to manufacture goods which were produced by the mother country so that there would be no competition. The geographical discoveries encouraged maritime activities and trade between Europe and the East. The Europeans began to import spices, Indian textile, Persian carpets, etc. from the East in large quantities. Similarly, they began to ship huge quantities of fish, fur, and timber from America. On the other hand, they began to export a number of European manufactured goods to Asia, Africa, and America, where the various European powers had set up their colonies. This enormous growth in commercial activities led to the creation of credit institutions, commercial banks, and other instruments. They lowered the taxes on their own industries but increased it in the colonies. The imperialistic countries also passed the Navigation Acts to develop the shipping industry, and every effort was made to extract maximum trade concession from the colonies. The colonial trade was exploitative and one-sided, which led to the political, cultural, and economic exploitation of the colonies. The geographical discoveries led to the establishment of the Columbian system of exchange. It was a system named after Columbus, according to which the plants, animals, and ideas of Europe and the New World were exchanged with one another. Thus, the Europeans brought cattle, horses, and sheep to the New World, and from the New World, the Europeans received tobacco, silk, spices, and precious stones. Thus, the geographical discoveries had initiated a new beginning in the world history. It brought the world closer, with interaction among the people from different countries, which led to the emergence of the modern world.